Ah, whoops. Hello, everybody. It is me, Grandmaster Mario, here again. And today, earlier today, I already did some Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 game, and I finally finished it off. So, now, I'm actually doing another video for mental health. I'm doing some more mental health talk. I'm going to talk somewhat about my struggles and, other people's struggles too. I'm going to be talking about all the mood disorders, and I'm going to talk about in ways you can help people who are struggling with things. And I'm going to talk a bit about myself. Since that you haven't really heard much about my story. A little bit here and there, but not much about me. So, yeah, so I'm going to be talking about mood disorders. I'm not going to go through all the symptoms while I'm going through these disorders. I'm going to talk about just basically what they are, because there's a lot of mood disorders. If you go through all the depressive disorders and all the bipolar disorders and all the postpartums and all that. So yeah, first mood disorder we're going to talk about is the most common mood disorder, and that is the second most common mental health problem, period, and it is the first most common mental health problem. It is the most common second most common mood disorder, and second most common mental health problem. The most is, an anxiety disorder. The most common is an anxiety disorder. And the second most common, first most common mental mood disorder, second most common mental health problem is depression, or major depressive disorder, or MDD. And that's basically like the very severe case of depression, and it is like a lot of sadness, anger, and it is depressed mood, and pretty much most of the day, all day, every day. And with this depression, it's a bigger risk of having suicidal thoughts and attempting suicide and stuff like that. And then there's also the lower case of depression, which is dysthymia, which is a lower grade depression, but it lasts longer. The major depressive disorder, lasts from all day, every day, for at least 2 weeks or more. And a lot of times it can happen a lot of times, and a lot of times you can have much more than just one episode. But with dysthymia, it lasts for 2 years. It's like a 2-year period of just depression. Like the symptoms are milder though. Just sadness and loss of pleasure and stuff like that. So dysthymia, that's or persistent depressive disorder. That's a lower grade depression, but it lasts longer than the major depressive disorder. And then there's the postpartum depression. There's postpartum depression. That's the thing where that's the thing of what mothers get after giving birth. First, they go through the baby blues, then they can develop postpartum depression, and they can also develop postpartum psychosis, which is much less common but much more severe than postpartum depression. Postpartum depression is like moodiness, mood swings, and anxiety, feeling disconnected. Postpartum psychosis is much more severe. I'm not really going to get into that. Also, a new study found on fathers that they can also develop postpartum depression too after having a baby. Dads can have it too. And they're more of the anger. The mothers are more the sadness mostly, and the dads are more the anger, from what I understand. So yeah. There's also postpartum anxiety. We're not going to talk about that. We're just talking about the mood disorders. And then next one is mood dysregulation disorder. And that's like the childhood bipolar sort of. Developed that as a child, and I don't really know much about its symptoms. Mostly 18 and younger can be diagnosed. Anyways, next one is seasonal affective disorder. That's like a depression that lasts for one season. Like most of the time it's winter. Some of the times it can be summer, and then it stops when the next season comes. And you feel when you have seasonal affective disorder, that specific season, say like winter, you get very depressed in the winter, like sad, angry. That's about hurting yourself or somebody else. But then in the season where you don't have seasonal affective disorder, well, you're much better than the season where you have seasonal affective disorder. And then there's also a new mood disorder called premenstrual dysphoric disorder, I think. It is, yeah, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And it's where when a woman gets her period and she just gets, with a woman with her getting her period, who has premenstrual dysphoric disorder, would have a lot more mood swings and feeling angry and sad and moody and stuff like that. Yeah, I know. Oh, never mind. Yeah, and that's it for the depressive disorders. Oh yeah. Also, there's also psychotic depression. I don't think they categorize that as a mood disorder, but I'm talking about it because it is a type of depression. It's a very severe case of depression. It's like psychotic depression is like with depression and psychosis mixed, basically. It's where you have depression with psychotic features. You start seeing things and hearing things that are not there, as well as that person being depressed. So yeah, very severe. Now to get into the bipolar disorders, there's There's three types. There's bipolar 1, there's bipolar 2, and there's also cyclothymia or cyclothymic disorder. So yeah, first bipolar 1, that's where you that's the more severe type of bipolar. It's you can have one episode where you're manic, where you have these mania symptoms like euphoria, feelings of euphoria, and racing thoughts, and feeling very energetic and stuff like that, and spending sprees and whatever, and then you have these episodes where you have depressive episodes where you're down, depressed, feeling suicidal, feeling a lot of these depressive feelings, and with bipolar 1 you can develop a lot of psychotic features as well, like seeing or hearing things that are not there. And yeah, with bipolar 2, you don't it's less severe. You don't really reach full-blown mania. So it's more like a hypomanic episode, where it's less severe than manic. And then you have these symptoms of... And then the other episode you experience symptoms of a sort of mild depression, mild depressive symptoms. And it's not nearly as severe, and cyclothymia is like that, but only it lasts a little bit longer. I hope I'm making sense. Okay, we have a lot of time. Wow, that took like 12 minutes. Oh yeah, and then there's also schizoaffective disorder, which is like a type of, which is like sort of like a mood disorder and like schizophrenia mixed, and that's where you have symptoms of bipolar and then severe symptoms of sort of like a mild schizophrenic and severe mood disorder type thing. Yeah, some of these disorders I know quite a bit about. Some of them I don't. Some of these lesser known ones I don't know all that much about them. So hope it doesn't offend anybody. Sorry if it does. But that's a lot of disorders to mention. It's 12 that I just mentioned. And then supports in Guelph, Ontario. That's where I'm from. Guelph, Ontario, Canada. Supports there are there's therapies. There's therapy at the Guelph General Hospital. There's therapies at the CMHA buildings. They're downtown, and there's support family health team at the doctor's office, and there's support family health teams, other support family health teams downtown and stuff like that. So there's a few. And yeah, apparently a new study found on people that I already knew this. So I was surprised that it's that people have just figured it out. No offense, but I sort of knew this. That yelling, swearing, name calling at your kids or anything like that can bring about some very severe psychological, mental, or emotional damage to people later in their life. Yes, I did kind of know that already because I've kind of went through that myself. That's kind of why I knew about it. I've known about it for like 10 years. So yeah. So yeah, a new study found on people that yelling, swearing, and name calling and all that, and consequencing your kid in the wrong way could bring about some serious emotional, psychological, or mental damage to your kid later in life. It can cause them low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, anger, aggression. They can feel bad about themselves or others. So either they feel guilty about being yelled at by their parents or caregivers or something like that, or they'll just blame their parents or caregivers or whoever was taking care of them and yelling at them. And it can also teach them violence. Yes, so it can do all that. And then some people are probably wondering, what do you think are the causes, or some of the causes of mental health problems to develop? I think it could be a lot of ways. I don't think there's any real one single cause of mental health problems. I think it could be caused by a bunch of things. I think it could be caused by other indications of people having other medical issues. Having other medical issues can sort of traumatize the person, or the medical issue could cause the chemicals in the brain to go sort of crazy and stuff like that. Isolation can cause it. Also, the opposite of being isolated, like being too sort of like overwhelmed, having too much to do, can also cause it. Environmental factors, stress and trauma, sort of like what we were talking about the yelling and swearing and hitting a child can cause very serious psychological damage. Sort of stress and trauma like that. Stress at work, chemical imbalances in the brain, genetics or family history, witnessing something bad or traumatizing, and yeah. And that's it for that page. And now I'm going to talk about 5 ways you can help somebody who might be struggling from some sort of mental health problem, or just in general. So number 1 is listen non-judgmentally. So when they're talking, you basically don't say anything. You might sometimes add in like an okay, like okay, yeah, just things like that. Well, actually, first thing you do is ask if they're all right. Like, is there anything I can help you with, or something like that? And then you listen non-judgmentally, and then you reassure them. You ask them. You ask them if you can ask them if you think they're thinking about hurting somebody or themselves or anything like that. You can ask if they're is there anything you need, or is there anybody I can call or anything like that, or you might just be able to help them yourself, like I don't know if you're qualified in doing that. You can also tell them about make other suggestions, like talk about other supports. There's a number you can call here in Guelph, Ontario. I know that for a fact. That there's a number called Here 24/7, and it's you need to call 1-844-437-3247. That's 1-844-437-3247. And that's Here 24/7 in Ontario, number you can reach. And yeah, a bit about me. Yes. If you're wondering, yes, I do struggle from some mental health problems, and I've struggled through some type of trauma and stress in my life. I'm not going to really get into the stress and trauma I've suffered from right now. But mental health problems that I have had struggled with is I have a full internet addiction. I'm addicted to going on the internet. I go on the internet about 40 hours a week. Every week, I'm addicted to the internet. And yes, I have been diagnosed with all these things that I'm going to be talking about by a professional. Actually, by professionals. Because I've been diagnosed by 2 psychiatrists and 1 doctor by all these things I'm about to talk about. I've been diagnosed with an internet addiction, a full internet addiction, and I've also been diagnosed with depression. That's one of the disorders I was talking about earlier. Depression or major depressive disorder, full anxiety. Also been diagnosed with anxiety or generalized anxiety disorder, full disorder. I've been told by professionals that I also do have some of the symptoms of borderline personality disorder. I do not, however, meet the full criteria for borderline personality disorder. I have 3 or 4 of the characteristics of borderline personality disorder, but you need at least 5, so I don't have the full criteria of borderline. But I do have some of the symptoms. And I've also been diagnosed with symptoms of a mood disorder not otherwise specified. That could be any mood disorder in the DSM, or a mood disorder that I just mentioned. So they know it's a mood disorder, but they're not sure which one. It wouldn't be major depressive disorder because I think it would be another one. They said another mood disorder not otherwise specified, not depression. And yes, I do have a full intellectual disability. And I go to Special Olympics, and I got ODSP. And I'm very successful in Special Olympics. I got over 75 first places, and I've been to the provincials 5 times, 3 for basketball, 1 for track, and 1 for floor hockey. So I've been to provincials for all 3 different provincial games that we have in Special Olympics Guelph. The summer, the spring, and the other spring games. And yes, I have in the past I have thought about harming myself in the past. Sometimes I still get those thoughts, actually. Sometimes I still get those thoughts of hurting or whatever. Sometimes I still get suicidal and self-harm thoughts. They just sort of come and go. Yeah. And other things about me. I'm a great athlete, like I just basically mentioned, and I'm a great advocate for mental health problems. So I talk about that stuff on the radio. So did the stuff I talked about today. So I'm sort of qualified to do that, talk about mental health problems at my radio show. I'm a great advocate for that. Whoops. I'm a high school graduate. I'm a great worker. I've been a few jobs in the past. I'm a recipient of 40 Under 40 here in Guelph in 2014. So 40 most accomplished out of 40 people in Guelph back in 2014, Guelph Mercury. I graduated first aid, CPR, EMS, and AED program. And I've also graduated a mental health and first aid program as well. So, and I'm a huge video game fan. I like playing video games. Like I said earlier today, I was playing Harry Potter, and I finished her up. So far while streaming, I beat about 6 Harry Potter games and about 8 Mario games and 4 other games. So far, I beat about 18 different games on live stream in total. So we're working at it. I'm also a competitive eater. I'm a very successful competitive eater. I'm a champion competitive eater here in Guelph, and also in my other hometown in Goderich. I'm also a champion competitive eater. And yeah. So, yeah, that's about it. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please like and or subscribe. And this is Grandmaster Mario here, signing out. Bye.